I think you're on mute, Guru Maharaj. We can't hear you.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
No, I'm not on mute, not at all.
Okay, now we can hear you, Guru Maharaj. Yes.
Well, Omagyantimirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya De Satarne Vanchakopatarubhascha Kripasindu Vegacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. What I think would be good is I'd like to do a little summary of what I've done from verse number 16 to the present verse today by reading the verses starting with verse number 16. So if you can very dexterously go back to 16 and then be ready to go to the next verse as I read from verse to verse.
Should we stay on this page, or would you want to go on the?
Yeah, just go on to. I just need the translations.
Yes, so we can read it from here, Guru Maharaj.
Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is trying to give a complete overview of the whole process of pure devotional service as it progresses from one stage to another, starting with verse number 15. These verses were spoken by Srila Prabhupada in a series of verses in order to really show how Sutta Goswami has really amazingly put the whole process of pure devotional service in these 6 verses actually. And then Srila Prabhupada's purport is the expansion on these verses, which are necessary for us to really go deep into what the verses are actually saying. And so I'll start. Again, Sutta Goswami is speaking, and he begins, O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, that means all sinful activities, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. So by associating and serving with great souls, hearing from them, one develops an attachment to hear about the message of the Lord. And then next, Sri Krishna, the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses material desire from enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed that urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanting. So we're going on to see here now that the devotee has developed the urge to hear the message of the Lord. And then when they develop that sincere desire to hear about Krishna, Krishna in the heart starts to cleanse that desire of material desires from the heart. And these messages, when they're heard, when they're chanted, they're powerful, they're virtuous. Okay, the next verse leads to the next stage. Then the devotee regularly attends the Bhagavatam classes and hears from Bhagavatam daily and renders service to the pure devotee. What happens is not all, but almost everything that is completely disturbing to the heart is gone, And loving service to the Transcendental Lord is awakened and is praised also, both awakened and praised as a successful combination of hearing and chanting. And that is a fact that is not reversible. But almost everything, not everything. So then we go to the 19th verse. As irrevocable lovers' service is established in the heart, now the devotee is fixed in devotional service. The modes of passion and ignorance, lust, desire, hankering disappear from the heart. The devotee is established in the mode of goodness and becomes happy. He has reached the stage of ruchi, which is the 6th stage in the 9 stages of bhakti. Thus, established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, his mind is enlivened by contact with devotional service. This is yesterday's discussion. And he gains positive scientific knowledge of the Lord in the stage of liberation from all material association. So we explained how this Bhakti Yoga is a science. It's something that cannot be adjusted. It's just like if you're going into a laboratory and you want to make an experiment and you want to have a particular outcome that you're looking for, say you want to create water, and you go for 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen in your experiment, the laboratory conditions have to be what we say ideal in order for the experiment to work. The person who's mixing also has to know what to mix and how to mix it. And then the result is water. So in the same way, devotional service is strictly following the rules and regulations of the scriptures as given to the individual devotee by his spiritual master, focusing on those instructions as the means for executing all of his activities in devotional service, and adding his own mood of devotion, which is to offer these activities as a service to Krishna in order to please Krishna. So the ingredients, just like we used the example of H2O, is the instructions and the directions of the spiritual master and the execution of these things. And the laboratory conditions would be considered to be the proper mood of devotional service, to offer it as a pleasing service to the Lord. In other words, to consciously try to please Krishna by the activities of devotional service, and not just perform the activities in order to complete them, but to try to please, offer them in a mood of completion. Okay, now we can go to our verse number 21. So here's today, and this is the final in the series of these verses. Vidyante hridayas grantis chidyante sarva samsayaha. Shinyate chasya karmani drishya evat manishvare. Now, after following these series of instructions given to us by Sutta Goswami, coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruit of action is terminated, and one sees the self as master. In other words, one is fixed in pure spiritual awareness that I am not this material body. The self is the motivating force behind all activities, and the external energy is the combination of all the previous misgivings that we have in terms of trying to interact with and enjoy the material energy. And then the knot in the heart is pierced. And so this is a very important point here. If you take a rope if you're making a rope and you want to make it strong, you gather a number of smaller little ropes and you twist them together. And then once you get them all twisted together completely, then you tie them all and you have a very, very strong rope. So the knot in the heart is our material attachments. And we have so many knots. And as Srila Prabhupada explains, when he discusses this point, the essential point of this knot is, or that hard knot that is the most difficult to cut, is sex life or sex desire. Saying, so Maituna Agra, the material world ultimately functions only on this desire alone. All other activities that people perform ultimately end with and are directed towards sex life. The material world is made up of male and female bodies, and as it says by Michelle, okay, verse number. The attachment to male and female is the basic principle of material existence. Based on this misconception, the verse says, the hearts of these two persons are tied together tight. Once that knot in the heart is established, it becomes the foundation for all of the other material activities, such as home, material possessions, wealth, children, family members, society, community, national interests. All of these are smaller knots that come with the big knot. The big knot is the attraction between man and women. Now, that attraction is natural in the material sense. No one can break that attraction simply by wanting to break it. No one has to learn that attraction. No one has to teach you to become attracted to the opposite sex. It is there because that is the nature of the male and female psyche is so what's the word? So designed that one is naturally male is attracted to female. Female is attracted to male. The foundation for cutting all the knots, and this is what this knot is here. Prabhupada explains that this knot that is referred to here is the foundation for all knots. So it doesn't mean that one should give up the association of the opposite sex, but the attraction that comes by that association. And that attraction leads to various types of activities, which expands the whole material energy. If there was no sex attraction, there would be no material world. That's the basis of how the material world works. And so we'll go on to explain, and I wanted to make that point first so we know what this heart and this knot is there. And by following those previous instructions given by Sutta Goswami in the series of verses we just read, then the chain of fruit of action is terminated, and one sees themselves not as the material body, but as a pure spiritual entity who has nothing to do with the material world. Attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously. So scientific knowledge is complete when you see yourself in relationship to Krishna. And what is that self? As far as the identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned, There are a number of speculations and misgivings of who we actually are. The materialists do not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and the empiric philosopher believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without individuality of the living beings. From different conceptions by different levels of materialists, the empiricalists, the gross materialists. But here's the understanding. But the transcendentalists affirm that the soul and the supersoul are two different identities, qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. So we are the same in essence as Krishna, but he contains much more, and we are a fraction of that. The example would be given: a drop of water in an ocean also contains salt, but one cannot swim in the drop, nor can the amount of salt in the drop be compared to the amount of salt in the ocean. For Krishna, we would be the ocean, and we would be like a drop, but there's no difference in quality. Quality is the same. We are both spirit. There are many other theories, but all these different speculations are once cleared off as soon as Sri Krishna is realized in truth by the process of bhakti yoga. So Prabhupada gets that you want to get rid of all these misconceptions and different wrong speculations. They disappear through devotional service. Sri Krishna is like the sun. The sun gives light. The sun gives heat. The sun gives happiness. And the material speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkness of midnight. At midnight, people become fearful. At midnight, one cannot even see. Sometimes they can't even see themselves. And at midnight, people go into the state called sleep, and therefore they're in a state of ignorance. So Krishna is like the light of the sun, and these mental speculations are compared to the darkness of night. As soon as the sun, just like as soon as the light of the sun comes, the darkness of all material speculations about the absolute truth of living beings is once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand. And the relative truths that were hidden, the mercy of Krishna who is residing in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. So we see, even in the execution of our devotional service, as we make progress year after year, we see where we were the year before, or even maybe a few years before that. And we see how what we had thought was correct is now understood as being incorrect. But what we did before, we see how actually it was leading up to where I am now. So we see how life is actually moving forward as we make progress, as we continue to execute our devotional service. We get more knowledge of Krishna and our relationship with him. And we also free ourselves more from the suffering of material energy. So, Bhagavad Gita 10:11, dwelling within our hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Krishna here shows special favor to his pure devotee. He personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgiving by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Sometimes devotees get afraid of pure knowledge. They think, oh my God, pure knowledge. Oh God, that means I have to give up everything I like. What am I going to do? You know, I have my family, and they think, oh no, I can't take that. Too much, Krishna. And we run the other way, take shelter of our old ways again, and stay in ignorance. And he was saying, just like eating, he said, we eat, but the soul has no need to eat. The soul has no desire to eat. The soul is self-contained, it doesn't need anything. But because we have a material body, we have to eat. So if we're going to eat to maintain the material body, then we should eat only and according to how much is required and not more. But Prabhupada gives a clear understanding how the soul has nothing to do with anything material. And that doesn't mean because the soul has nothing to do with any material, the soul is lost. It has everything to do with the spiritual realm, which is full of variety, which is full of knowledge, which has unlimited joy in each of the varieties also. Prabhupada said in the spiritual world, you have your friends, you have your relatives, you even have family members there, Krishna is there, and there are so many activities in spiritual life. He said the varieties in this material world are just an insignificant amount of what the varieties are in the spiritual world. They're unlimited. We think, well, what's it like in the spiritual world? What do you do there, But it's unlimited. We get a little indication from the Shastras of Krishna and his activities with his devotees, but these are just a drop in this large ocean of unlimited spiritual and very satisfying and fully enlivening spiritual activity. Godheads take certainly a devotee engaged in devotional service, engaged in his service and transcendental love, cannot remain in darkness. So Krishna is doing the work. We just have to have the desire. He comes to know everything of the absolute and in other words, you see darkness and light side by side. The devotee cannot remain in the darkness, but because the devotee is enlightened by the personality of Godhead, his knowledge is certainly perfect. This is not the case for those who speculate on the absolute truth by dint of their own limited power of approach. Perfect knowledge is called of deductive knowledge coming down from the authority to surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord and know him at the same time. That's why humility, submission to the knowledge received is the way to receive the knowledge and to benefit from that knowledge. Otherwise, that knowledge will not be beneficial or understandable. Okay, the devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to the cyclic succession, and the supersoul within the heart helps the devotee. In this way, one receives complete transcendental knowledge. This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter because the knot of spirit and matter is united by the untied by the Lord. So that knot in the heart is being untied by the Lord himself. This knot is called ahankara, which means false. A living being who identifies themselves with matter. As soon as the knot is loosened, Therefore, all the clouds of doubt are at once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in loving devotional service to the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive actions. That means not only one activity, but all of your material activities no longer bind you, for all your activities no longer bind you to the results of the activities and cause happiness and distress. In material existence, a living being creates a chain of fruit of enjoyment and enjoys. And as soon as he engages in devotional service, he becomes free from the chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction. A devotee is acting even more so than the materialist in many cases, but there is no reactions to his activities. His activities simply are expressions of his devotion to the Supreme Lord, and therefore, as it's described in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, is called akarma. There is karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma means auspicious and desirable activities materially, and akarma means devotional service. No reactions, either materially good or bad, which is the ultimate principle of good karma.
Sorry, Guru Maharaj, to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking. I think internet is unstable. It's not stable. So maybe it will be good to switch off your camera, Guru Maharaj. I can stop your video, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, now maybe you can try.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Yes, it's still not very good, but yes, we can try. No, we can't hear you, Guru Maharaj. I think it's the internet connection. I can see you're talking, but we can't hear you.
I ended my talk. My talk's ended.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry, Guru Maharaj. I'm sorry.
The talk is over. It's ended.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So thank you so much for this verse, and first of all giving us the brief on all previous verses starting from 16 to 20th, and is a series of verses which always in first verse when you explain that Srila Prabhupada has also used these verses in first poem which he wrote on Chalduta, and it explains the full journey of how Srimad Bhagavatam is important and how the glories of the Lord needs to be heard and sing. And especially in this verse, how we can cut the knots of lust and attraction, different types of attachment we have in the life. So thank you so much for the talk, Guru Maharaj. Devotees, if you have any questions, comments, realizations, please unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can type in the chat box. I'll read it for you. And it will be really nice to have your darshans. If you can keep your cameras on. I can see few devotees have got their cameras on from the starting, so it was really nice. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So there is first question we have from Narsing Leela Mataji Guru Maharaj. So I'm going to read it. Dear Guru Maharaj, I was reading your daily diary in the morning and have come upon one entry where you mention pratishtha, desire for fame, as a subtle component of sex desire. You also added that pratishtha includes profit, adoration, distinction. It is so. Is it so that for a living entity it is easier to renounce than pratishtha as a subtle component? What is recommended to counteract pratishtha? Thank you. As a Guru Maharaj. Let me see. Guru Maharaj, you're on mute. I have tried to unmute you. I'm sorry, devotees. Guru Maharaj's internet seems to be unstable, so it might take some time to come back.
Satyabhama?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, now we can hear you. Thank you.
I'm gonna wait a minute, just hold on a minute here. I'm gonna relocate because I'll get into a better internet position here.
That's fine, Guru Maharaj will wait. Thank you.
Open up my video again.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, sure. I'm just asking you to start the video and then it will ask you the question, Guru Maharaj. If you could click on yes. Yes, we can see you, Jay. Thank you. Do you want me to read the question again, Guru Maharaj? Question from the Narsimha Mataji?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Mataji is asking, Dear Guru Maharaj, I was reading your daily diary in the morning and have come upon one entry where you mention pratishtha, desire for fame, as a subtle component of sex desire. You also added that pratishtha includes profit, adoration, distinction. Is it so that for living entity is easier to renounce gross sex desire than pratishtha as a subtle component? What is recommended to counteract pratishtha? Thank you.
Well, yeah, the gross sex desire, that is easier to eliminate than the subtle. The subtle causes even great souls who are fixed on higher platforms of devotional service to fall down. Pratishtha, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati gives a very elaborate description of pratishtha. That is the last snare of material energy to keep the living entity entrapped. One is a great proponent of spiritual life, has performed so many activities, gets many accolades, gets some recognition, a lot of recognition, known as a great devotee, starts thinking that it's all due to him and starts taking these things as, his own achievements. In other words, he starts to identify with the subtle aspects and starts to think, yes, I did it. Yes, I'm actually advanced. Yes, I'm a great devotee. Yes, I'm pleasing Krishna. Yes, I have so many followers. And this is called Ranga Tarangini by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this. It's to take the benefits that one receives in the execution of the devotional service as one's indication of one's advancement in devotional service. So what is advancement? How much you're actually developing your love for Krishna. No matter how much followers you have, how much glorifications you have, no matter how many activities you have performed to spread Krishna consciousness. All these can be indications, but in another sense, they can also be seen as ways to divert the attention away from the real goal, and that is to develop our love for Krishna. So, so this pratishtha is a very I mean, it causes the fall down of many great souls. Of course, they're not lost. Krishna will give them a chance again to pick up, but it does cause them to fall down from their position. So, therefore, Lord Chaitanya gave the formula, Trinadapi Samichena, Tayori Vasa Hishnuna, Mani Nama Manadena, Kirtaniya Sudalahi. Humility, tolerance, pridelessness, and respect for all others. Humility, as explained by Srila Prabhupada in one purport, is not to want the facility or the benefit of being honored by others. That is humility. Not wanting to be honored by others. If others honor you, yeah, that's fine. What can you do? You just take that honor in the words and you offer it to your spiritual master. But if you accept it, even if you accept part of it, you become somewhat tinged by that desire for recognition. I mean, people get married just to be recognized. Somebody recognizes me, my husband, he'll recognize me, my wife, she'll recognize me, my children, she'll recognize me. These are also another forms of petition, wanting to be seen as important in the life of somebody else. It comes in family life. We have children that look like us, so we can feel good about it.
Sorry. Yes, go on, Guru Maharaj. I'm sorry. I'm muted.
Yeah, so you have to, what Nrsinga Leela is pointing out is something very, very subtle and happens to many great souls. So how do you overcome that? You don't accept it. You accept that everything I am or anything I can do is simply the mercy of my spiritual master. That's all. I'm nothing. I'm useless. I'm just so low. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, such a great soul, he sings, Amara Jivan, Sare Pape Rate, Nahio Poyero Lesa. Amara Jiva, my life, Sare Pape Rate, is simply sinful. Nahio Poyero, this is my life, it's simply sinful. He's not just saying that, just to sound, humble. He's actually feeling like that. That is pure devotion. And to come to that stage is not easy. And he says, when I see someone happy, I feel unhappy. When I see someone unhappy, I feel happy. He's acting like a conditioned soul, but he's not. But still, he's feeling like that. So these are the higher, so people get trapped. They make a lot of progress in devotional service, but if they fail to clean out that last residue of attachment, which is, as Nrsinga Leela mentioned, it's the subtle form of sex desire. There's no more gross activities. But now I'm free from all of that gross activities, but now I want people to honor me. I want people to worship me. I want people to recognize me. Prabhupada said, even in the material world, they see that when nobody's recognizing the person, they'll get a dog. So at least the dog will recognize them. This desire for recognition is so strong in the conditioned soul. I gave a big donation to the temple. I should get my name put on the plaque and put it right in the front part of the doorway, whatever one can see when I walk into the temple. Yeah, I mean, we all struggle with that. We're giving up the no illicit sex, no intoxication, no media, no gambling. These are the gross forms of sinful life, but each one of these forms have a subtle aspect to them. Now, how the example is given, you have to get rid of the subtle, because just like if you have weeds in your garden and you take your lawnmower or your sword and you cut the weeds, you still leave the root. And therefore, the root will grow back again, cause the weed to grow again. So one has to uproot the desire at its very base. Otherwise, it grows back. So what does that mean? Although one is free from the gross activities of sinful life, one has to pull out those subtle weeds that cause the gross weeds to reappear again.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
So how do you do that? Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord in association with others. This helps to remove all the contamination. And by that hearing and chanting, one becomes inspired to serve the Lord in different ways. We have to get attracted to Krishna, not to the benefits of devotional service, but to Krishna himself. There are many benefits in devotional service. And that's nice. That's part of devotional service too. But the essence of devotional service is our love for Krishna. So hearing and chanting, associating, but be patient. Don't get nervous if you see yourself still attached to so many things. Just go on with the process. It works. You stay in the process, never get discouraged, being overwhelmed by your own material, desires, attachments. Just keep going. Learn where you are attached, how to overcome those attachments, and stay within the process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And those who perform this properly, they're simply satisfied. They just look forward to hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. That becomes their happiness. To be with devotees, to serve devotees, to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. They don't even worry about, all of these other material things that are hanging in the background. They just fall away automatically. As it says in the you bring in the light of the sun, the darkness goes. If you're just trying to push out the darkness with your little flashlight, it might not work. You have to bring in the sun. The sun is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Krishna Smarnam. Chant, dance, take prasad, hear about Krishna, talk about Krishna. These are the activities of the great souls. Make arrangements for other people to do the same. There's so many things we can focus on that are actually the light of Krishna consciousness, which automatically remove the darkness of ignorance. And when we see our own anarthas or our own material desires appear, just ignore them, push them away, forget about them. Don't give them any attention. If you give my attention, she will expand her performance for you. She likes attention. That's why she's there, to get your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. And Nursing Leela Mataji, I hope this answers your question. Otherwise, you can type back and I'll ask Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Radha Vinodi Mataji, before your question, I'm going to take Devananda Prabhu's question because he's been sitting there for some time. Sorry. So Prabhu, then Devananda Prabhu is asking, Hare Krishna, all glory Srila Prabhupada, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. In one of your lectures, you said that it is almost impossible to change your swarup. I recently heard from a senior devotee that by the grace of Sri Chaitanya, one can change one's swarup. For example, from Vaikunthavasi, one can become Golokvasi. Can you comment on this, your servant?
I didn't say it wasn't possible. I said it's a very high stage of bhakti. That's all. It's possible, yeah. Generally, our sarup is fixed, but if you perform the sadhana that was required in order to come to that stage of, say you want to go from Vaikuntha to Vrindavan, you can do that. But it's not like changing clothes. It's not that easy. I mean, you're going to have to work at that. You're going to have to perform Vrindavan. You're going to have to take shelter of the residents of Vrindavan, work under their guidance, and hear and chant the glories of Krishna in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And develop the attraction for chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is Vrindavan. Hare Krishna is Vrindavan.
Thank you.
Have to see the holy name as being Vrindavan. There are those who see the holy name as being a combination of both Vrindavan and Vaikuntha. That's also correct. It's the vision that you have because the holy name is unlimited. And one can apply any of the pure spiritual visions upon the holy name. For instance, the name Rama could mean Ramachandra. It could also mean Lord Balaram. But for those fixed in Vrindavan consciousness, it means Radha Raman. Krishna, who is Raman, the husband of Radha. So yeah, consciousness. But then the sadhana that develops that consciousness. So I didn't say it was not possible. I said it's practically impossible for us unless you have to work under a guidance of someone who is fixed in that consciousness. You can't just simply do it by yourself. You're going to have to take shelter of a person who is in the Vrindavan consciousness if you want to go from Vrindavan to Vaikuntha, and work under their guidance. That's what it takes. It's not like, it's not so easy. I mean, it's easy, but at the same time, it's a process. And you have to follow the process. Nothing in devotional service is difficult. It's just what makes it difficult or not difficult is that the interference of our material consciousness. That's all. Krishna consciousness is really simple, but where our attachments to material world are very, very long term and very deep. And there's subtle aspects to those attachments, as we described already. So yeah, our material life is our big disturbance. Spiritual life is easy. We think we're this body. We think we're from the Ukraine. We think that my country is the Ukraine. Therefore, any other country that's against Ukraine is my enemy. That's material consciousness. And we still think we're this particular body. We identify with a sense of nationalism. But spiritual consciousness is all living beings are parts and parcels. They are Krishna's parts and parcels, and the material coverings is the distinction that we see. But from the spiritual point of view, there's no distinction. Every living entity has an eternal loving relationship with Krishna. And therefore, devotee makes no one their enemy. Because enemies and friends, as Prahlad Maharaj says, is simply mental concoction, that's all. Who's an enemy and who's a friend? One day your enemy is your friend, and next day your friend is your enemy. These are all mental concoctions, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. And Devananda Prabhu, if you have any questions after this, then you can please type it in the chat and I'll read it for you. Thank you. Radha Vinodni Mataji, you can go next.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you. You mentioned to Nishingalila Mataji's question that there is a subtle form for each sinful activities. And can you elaborate it a little bit more? For example, in the sense that there are these four types of sinful activities, and what is the subtle form of them? Because in case of this sex desire and desire for fame, in some sense, I understand that these two are connected. But in another sense, at first it seemed to be so surprising for me.
Hey, you know, this is a statement from Shastras, so it doesn't go item by item to tell you what the subtle forms of everything is, but it does tell you the subtle forms of sex desire. Because sex desire is the adiras. What is that adiras? Our pure love for Krishna has been redirected towards objects in this material world. And soon as you redirect that love for Krishna back to Krishna, which is the adiras, then there's all of your material desires are gone. To break that knot is to break the key knot, which eliminates all the other knots. That's what this verse was saying. Mm-hmm. As soon as that knot in the heart is destroyed, the chain of fruitive activities ceases to exist. And therefore, the knot is sex desire, either subtle or gross.
So if that's starting to decrease, automatically the other type of sinful activities will decrease, or I don't understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because that's the one that is the foundation for all the other ones. Mm-hmm. There was no sex desire, to be no material world.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in you mentioned that many times great souls fell because of this desire for fame. So, also in that situation, it was that they have had some kind of subtle form of this desire.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's just natural when you get rid of the gross activities, when you actually free yourself from the activities of the gross, then you have to understand that the subtle is still going to be there. And so as you continue your devotional service, hearing and chanting, associating, serving, and offering your love to Krishna, gradually the effects of the subtle activities become less and less. And once that's there, then that's pure Krishna consciousness, and then everything else is gone. All the other sinful activities are already gone. They're subordinate to the main one.
And can we do anything special type of endeavor? I mean, if I'm doing my sadhana, that's enough, or I should focus in some way on certain anarthas, like this desire for fame.
Well, when you see it appear in your day-to-day life, just don't give it any attention or recognition. Distance yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
When we see some of the qualities that we're trying to overcome appear, like when we see we're not humble, we should have been humble, and we reflect on that, and we overcome that, and then and then when the situation arises again, then we're more aware how to act. Only when you feed the negativity does it grow. When you ignore it and don't give it any attention, and at the same time continue in your devotional service, it's like a little child comes running up, always wants to bother the mother. And then at one point, the mother just ignores the child, and the child goes away and does something else because he can't get the attention. And Maya's trying to get your attention. When she can't get your attention, she'll go find somebody else.
I see. Yeah, it was
just don't give Maya any attention. That's all. And you have to be able to recognize what is Maya and what is Krishna, and at the same time be able to, focus on what is spiritual and just ignore what is material. Because material is false anyway. It's a shadow. It's not real. It's based on the body. It's ephemeral. It's illusionary. If you ignore, then eventually it goes away because it's not real in the first place. But you can't ignore Krishna because he's always there. He's real. Even if you ignore him, he still doesn't go away. Spiritual doesn't go away. Material does. Spiritual grows as you give it attention, focus, activity. And material is like a room full of smoke. That's all it is.
Sorry, room full of what? I didn't understand the last word. Room full of smoke. Smoke. Oh,
you just give it time. You give time. Smoke kind of just disappears all of a sudden.
Yes. Thank you. It was really interesting what you said, that because I was wondering what can I do when these things come up, and you mentioned that to continue to do effort, and I was wondering that many times when something is difficult in my service, for example, just continuing is showing Krishna that I would like to be serious, and I really would like to please him. So
I would suggest you go to Canto 7, chapter 15, which is the last chapter in Canto 7. And in parts of that chapter, towards the later part, I think, you'll find what counteracts material anarthas. what counteracts lust, what counteracts greed, what counteracts envy, what counteracts.
Oh, yeah, it's text 16, I think.
Yeah, there's a whole series of texts.
Oh, no, maybe it's not that. Okay, I will check out the whole chapter and yeah.
Yeah, this is a little bit on the material side, but it helps you to counteract the mode of goodness, counteracting the mode of ignorance and passion. That's all. And then once you get to the mode of goodness, then you can use all of the qualities that you've developed in the mode of goodness to serve the Lord.
Yeah, I will check it out and yeah, let's see.
David Underpand is asking, where in the Shastras can we read that the Hare Krishna mantra is Vrindavan? Golokira Premadhana. Golokira Premadhana Harinam Sankirtan Ratin Jan Milokene Upai. That this mantra, Golokira, coming down from Goloka itself, Premadan, it is giving it's delivering pure prema. Golokita Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his prayers, he writes, Golokita Premadan Harinam Sankirtan Ratin Jan Milokene Upai. And there are other statements also in the Shastras, but it's descended from Goloka, the Harinam Sankirtan.
But we hear it from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, not from Shastra.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Shastra. His songs are pure spiritual Shastra. But if you want to go right to Shastra, then go to the last verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 13.
Which canto, Guru Maharaj?
12th canto, chapter 13, verse 23. Last verse, last canto, last. Just go to the end.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Just clicked on the wrong place.
You had it, now you.
Yes. Which verse?
Last verse.
Last verse, sorry. Text
There's
23.
no other verse after that. That's the end. Now, for my respectful obeisances, Supreme Lord, the congregation of the channel whose whole destroys all and offer all obeisances, to whom relieves all material suffering. Okay, that's one aspect of the holy name. There are other verses given by the acharyas also. There's another Narottam Das Thakur. Let's see. Well, what is the so I'm going to ask you a question, Devananda Pandit. What does the word Hare mean in the mantra?
You're on mute, Prabhu. You're on mute. Devananda Prabhu.
It's an inner energy of Supreme Personality of Godhead.
What is that energy?
Ну, inner energy, Владимир Шакти,
Who's that?
Шримати Радхарани.
Now, does Radharani belong to Vrindavan or not?
But we can't find Mahamantra itself in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Srimad Bhagavatam. We just read it in other scriptures. But why don't we study these scriptures? Why do we study Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Because that's the essence of all scriptures.
But we can't find Mahamantra. We can't find Mahamantra in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can find it only in literary translation or in commentaries, but not this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never chant Mahamantra. We can't find it in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
It's not in any of the verses?
We can find it only in literary translation.
Yeah, by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami glorifies the Mahamantra in verses. Yeah.
Which verses?
Yeah. Okay. Go to chapter 7 of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Adi Leela. Go through verse around 73. Then you'll see it. Okay. Let's see. Krishna mantra. Let's see. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, what does it say? I can't read the whole thing. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. Continue on with the rest of the verses there. 73. There's other verses also. He talks about that verse, he said, string this on the chant. In the age of Kali, there's no other religion than chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all Vedic hymns. This is the purport of all scriptures.
But holy name is not the Mahamantra.
Yes, it is. Well, if the Mahamantra, yeah. He says Mahamantra in the other one. After describing the potency of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, my spiritual master taught me another verse, advising me to always keep it in his throat. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking this. What more do you want?
No, but where is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the Mahamantra.
Harinam, in the age there is no alternative, no alternative than to the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. You're looking for the actual translation of the holy name within the verse?
I'm looking for actual Mahamantra.
Yeah, it's in the Kali Yusa. There is also, it's also in Chaitanya Charitamrita and other places, but it's mentioned specifically in the Kali Santara Upanishads. Upanishads are the Vedas. You want to go to that verse, Kali Santara Upanishads?
I know that it exists in the Kali Santara Upanishad, but why don't we study this Upanishads?
We do. We mentioned that. Kali Santara Upanishad, it's the verse is spoken by Lord Brahma himself. If you don't believe that the holy name is coming from Vrindavan, then you have a lot that you better go back and start reading your books again. The holy name is Vrindavan itself. It's non-different. if I say something is beautiful, then if someone else says, well, something is gorgeous, I mean, the words practically are synonymous. So when they say Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the translation, just because they don't give the actual words of the mantra, that doesn't mean they're not indicating the Maha Mantra. But if you're looking for the verses itself, you'll find it in the Shrutis, which are the Upanishads. If you give me a few minutes, I can go through my collection of verses here, and I can Kali Santara Upanishads, yeah. Here it is here. Okay, you quit jumping around. When you find it, you always run away from it again. Here you go. Stop, don't go anywhere. Kali Santara Upanishad says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare. Iti Sodasa Kam Nam Kali Kama Sanasana. Nata Paratayopayo Sarva Vedashu. After searching through all Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this age than chanting of Hare Krishna. Here it is, right? Kali Santara Upanishad. Spoken by the head of our Sampradaya, Sri Brahma himself. Yeah, and then there's an explanation. Yeah. Also in the, wait, stop. The Narada Pancha also praises the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as follows. So there's a praise there. But it's also mentioned in other verses. You just have to find them. They're there. $10.25, was that Bhagavad Gita? Sri Devi, what are you saying?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, in the Bhagavad Gita, in that particular purport, Srila Prabhupada says, of all the transcendental vibrations, Omkar represents Krishna. Of all sacrifices, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
No, what Devananda Pandit is saying, he wants to find it in the verse itself, not in the purports.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's his point. So the Kali Santara Upanishad does give it in the verse. And the Upanishads are the Shrutis. And the Shrutis are the Vedas. But the Vedas give a wide range. But Lord Chaitanya has given that emphasis in this age of Kali, where in other ages, the holy name of the Lord is not given as the focus of, purification of the heart. And there is a Yuga Dharma for every age. And only in this age is the Yuga Dharma chanting Hare Krishna, although people knew about and chanted Hare Krishna in other ages also. But the words of the pure devotees, the words of the Lord himself, is as good as Shastra. If Lord Chaitanya is glorifying the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then that's Shastra.
Maybe this is Shastra for exalted devotees, but not for such low-level devotees as I am.
I think you're just trying to argue for the sake of argument.
No, I'm sorry, but I hear you, but I'm not happy. It's my problem. I know this is my problem, but I'm not happy. What can I say?
Well, just keep chanting Hare Krishna and then everything will be clear.
Thank you.
It's obvious. The words of the pure devotees are Shastra also. Words of the Lord are Shastra. Sri Devi.
Yeah, Shridevi Mataji, you can ask a question.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, maybe my question is a little, silly perhaps after all this high philosophical discussion, but I'll ask it anyway, because we are really trying to perform our devotional service nicely. And one of the things that we need to learn is proper etiquette. So I was thinking that many of my god sisters are almost half my age. They are like my daughters practically. Should I still say Satyabhama Mataji, Radha Vinodini Mataji? Because they are like my daughters. Can I just say Satyabhama, Radha Vinodini, or I must say Mataji after that?
Well, there's 2 points that you made in your statement. One is a statement by Srila Prabhupada where he says that even a young girl will be called Mataji by an older person. He's giving the etiquette that all women, except one's wife, is seen as mother. And so the title for addressing, even probably even a young girl, will be addressed as Mataji by someone who's older. Now, what you want to do, that's up to you. I can't tell you should call people Mataji or not Mataji. The idea is just to be respectful when we address each other, that's all.
So maybe I can ask them how they would like to be addressed. Since now I'm going to UK, I want to do the proper thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people, either Western women or women who grow up in the West who are Indian origin, get a little bit unsettled when they're called Mataji. It sort of has a certain connotation about it, but this connotation is wrong. The real connotation is it's a title of honor, it's the title of respect. That's the indication. And so how it's said also is also how it's going to go. We say, hey, Mataji. I mean, nobody's going to like that. Hey, Prabhu. Same thing. But if you're addressing people in a respected way, the tone of how you address them is the elixir by which that pushes that word through. So Prabhupada could use various ways to address people, and he did, but he always did it with respect. And so it was always acceptable. We have to learn both the art of addressing and the respect that comes with delivering that.
So I think basically learning to respect everyone and not get familiar maybe, but just,
as soon as you lose respect for one, then you start finding faults in people.
And we get familiar also. Yes, Guru
Familiar,
Maharaj.
familiar is a cause of losing respect.
Sorry?
Familiarity is a cause of losing respect. I mean, sometimes the gopis, they chastise the cowherd boys, and they call them buffoons, But it's done out of love. I mean, if you have a nice relationship with someone and there's feelings of affection and intimacy there, if you get a little loose in addressing each other, it doesn't really matter but when you're addressing someone in a general way, you should always keep that respect.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. That is very helpful.
Thank you, Shri Devi.
Jai Sri Devi. Sri Devi gives life to our discussions.
Yes, she does, Guru Maharaj. Absolutely correct. Thank you. She always comes up with nice questions.
Yeah, thoughtful questions, really good ones.
Yes, I agree. And devotees, any other questions? Otherwise, we can close the call. We are already 20 minutes past, so 25 minutes past actually. Yeah. So if there is no other questions, we can close the call. And before just we wait for one more question, last question maybe, we can announce that I'm sure everyone is aware that initiations are happening on 19th June in UK Bhaktivedanta Manor. There will be 7 devotees who are getting second initiated and 2 devotees who are getting the first initiation by the mercy of Guru Maharaj. And we also have retreat, which is going, and I hope everyone is joining us on the retreat from 24th June to 28th of June. It's in Vedanta, Lancashire, UK. And if you have not booked your place, please contact, either you can send an email to in conference or contact myself, Srimati Mataji, or Shyamlal Prabhu, or Vrindavan Nath Prabhu.
The registration is almost about to close. So
Yes.
if there's anybody that still wants to come, don't wait any longer. So because they're about to close the registration. We have 89 people registered, plus another smaller group that are also part of